Hi, this is Sandy. Today we're going to focus on fall, and we're going to put our focus on trees, how to draw a tree. So this lesson is a drawing lesson. You might need your colored pencils or your crayons if you want to complete a tree. But for right now, we're just going to work on a pencil drawing of a tree. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's talk about trees. In the fall, they change. They change colors. They don't change their physical structure, but the structure of what we see changes. When we were in kindergarten, we learned to draw a tree, a stick, and a circle. Trees are sort of like the stick men of people. You could go simple and know that's a tree, or that's a tree. Then as we grew older, our trees got more sophisticated. We have two sticks, and instead of a circle, we have a cloud. And maybe our evergreen trees turned out to be like this. Now, some of us are still stuck in this type of a tree. I don't know, a lot of times I will see trees drawn and they get real fancy. Now we almost have a C. And then we have an enhanced cloud. And maybe we'll have another little cloud in between there and another one in between there. Then maybe our trees got a little bit better. Somehow they're still not looking like a tree. So we're going to take a tree and we're going to take it apart and we're going to learn how to draw it. So let's get started. Okay, this is my first example of a tree. I'm getting these pictures off of Paint My Photo. It's pmpart.com, and you can become a member there. It's free, and then you can use their photos to paint with, to work art with, as long as you tell everybody that this is where the photos came from. And this one came from Steve Lydon. Beautiful tree, isn't it? Now, I want you to pay attention. This tree back here I'm real good at using this. And I've got to change my ink color. Okay, this tree back here could be our stick in our cloud tree. It's so far away, we can barely see it. This tree way back here could be our evergreen tree, and we don't even need a stick underneath it. These trees back here don't even need a stick underneath them because we know they're trees. Now, as we get the photo closer and closer to us, we see that you still can't see them. That's in the distance. But now we've got this big old tree. I mean, this is a huge old tree. And if you look at it, what are we seeing? We are seeing a stick. So this is basically our second tree. And if we wanted to, we could draw a line, a cloud here and a cloud here, because that's what we see. Now, I don't want to see that. So we're going to look at something else on this photo right here. We aren't going to pay attention to the trunk of the tree. We know it's there. And this tree, you can't see the roots because we're still really too far away. What I want to notice is there is a group right here, a cluster of leaves, a cluster of leaves here, a cluster here. Now, why am I doing this? What do I really want you to look at when you're looking at this tree? That's the clusters of leaves, right? What I really want you to notice, no, let's go with white. Over on the other side, I'm drawing a triangle of the air in between the leaves. So suddenly, when we look at a tree this way, and we look at the negative space in the tree, we no longer are able to see our clouds. So why is this important? If I were to come in here and put a cloud here, and a cloud here, and a cloud here, I still don't see the negative space. So when we put leaves on trees, that's what we want to see, is that negative space. Now there's another thing I would really like to see. If I went back a layer to what it looked like before I did this, I want you to see the colors. We have light green, we have dark green, and in that light green right here is a light shade that you'll see in it. You'll see the light in these leaves. You can see the light right here, right here, right here. Can you see that where I've pointed it out right underneath it? We want to keep that in there. So when we're making our colors for our leaves, we have to remember that, yes, right here, it was dark. And right here, it was real dark. Right here, it's real dark. Can you see me picking out the darks? I've still got the negative space. This part right there, those triangles that we drew. But now when I drew in the leaves, I've got different values of green to make the leaves and the tree. So we're going to have to figure out how to put that in our trees. So let's go on to the second example. Okay, now let's look at the root system of a tree. We've got the tree. It comes down and it flares out. So that one very elementary drawing of the tree that we did was okay. But before it goes into the ground, it has other things happening. It has a root here and a root here. I'm going to change this and make it just a little bit lighter. This one over here has a root here and a root here, and a root here and a root here. But if you really want to look at this, everything goes up into the tree. So I can't have a root just come out over here. It doesn't work that way. All right. So we're going to have all these roots going all over the place. And I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. All right. Now, the first root that we've got, let's say it's these two right here. That looks pretty good. Then we've got this root over here. How do you make this root here go in front of that root? This is where your shading comes in. We're going to go in here and we're going to shade this, and I'm going to start with a triangle right there. Now that's telling you that that color or that root is behind this root here. That's a good idea. We're going to zoom in some more. Okay, this root over here connects to this one right there. But we've got to tell it that this one is in front right here. It's closer to us. Once again, there's a triangle right here that you're going to shade and show that this root here is in front. Okay, now besides that, how do we know this is up from down? If you'll notice, this is darker than this top. So a lot of the tree is shading and shadowing. So now we've got to learn how to do that. We're also going to concentrate on another thing here. Nothing is straight. Everything is gently curving. If you look at the photo, it gently curves out. Now, pay attention to this one right here, this root. It goes out and comes down here. But if I want to put another root on here, like this one right here, I don't just stick it out there. It's almost like I'm running along this root and I turn a corner. I'm running along the root and I turn a corner. Right there. And there's another root over here. I turn a corner. But I start before I turn the corner. I don't just turn a corner. I've got to make up my mind. My root is here. I have to gently turn the corner. But look at this one. One goes underneath the other. What am I going to do? Once again, I'll zoom in. And I'll show you that right here was a triangle of dark, and over here was a triangle of dark. So we're using our triangles of dark to make something go away, go underneath something else. If we go up here, how do we know this is on top of that? There's a triangle right here and right here, right here, that tells me that's touching there, but it's behind it. Okay, we've got lots and lots of messages coming up on us. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, now I want to pay attention to the tree trunks, the limbs, the little twigs on a tree. This is called Spooky Old Tree. Steve did this one too. And if I zoom in on it, or it does look like Spooky Old Tree right there. But what makes it spooky is, number one, there are no leaves on it, which could mean it's dead. And number two, nothing is making sense. There's a limb that just kind of, there's a limb that just goes up. No rhyme or reason. Look at this one here. It just goes, it starts from nowhere and goes up. This one right here starts and stops. No reason. So depending on what your tree looks like, will tell your viewers or your audience what, if it's a spooky tree, a dead tree, or something you really want to draw. Let's look at another thing here. If we were drawing this, you can almost see what's been hit by lightning right there. This tree had been going this way and this way. It had a Y in it. This side got cut off for some reason. Let's look at this branch right there. If we were drawing this tree, we would probably have a tendency to just put a Y in like that. That isn't the way the tree grew. The tree grew from here, came over here, turned a slight corner, and then went up. When it had a twig on it, it didn't have a twig. It had a line that was here and then went out. A line that's here and then goes out, and then goes out, and then goes out. So every time it wants to switch, it has lines that do that for it. So let's follow another example of that. We're going to start up here. Someday I will get this, you guys. Okay. This tree here goes this way. It's behind this other one. Goes that way. Then right here, it comes up. It goes out this way and then keeps going this way. This one comes in, so it probably started there. This one goes out here, probably started there. That way, we have a nice gentle curve of all of our branches and twigs. We could turn there again. We could keep going on and on, just so long as we don't have a twig that's nice and straight. You decide what looks more like branches. It's going to be something like this. This one right here goes this way. We're going to start it back there and make it go out the other way. Okay? So a lot of the times, the way you draw your branches on here will either make your picture perfect or it'll break it. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, we have Franklin to thank for this beautiful olive tree. But why did I put it up here? Let's zoom in. Here's why. I wanted you to notice that the tree was really 3 trees in one. And the way that happened was, I don't know the physical reason for it to happen, but the artistic reason, this one is in front, right here, of this one. And we're showing that with this shadow right there and right here that tells me what is in front. Then look at this shadow over here. That shadow over here tells me that this one went this way and then up. And so I've got to make those shadows. Now, back here, look at all of these roots. There's a root here. There's a root here. There's a root here. There's one here. There's one here. And there's one here. And then this is the middle of the tree. You've got to be able to show the shadows in a tree. Right here is a triangle. Right here is another triangle. And right here is another triangle. It's these small triangles of color or of shadow that makes these different roots come out. Let's look behind this one right here. What is telling us that this tree limb or this trunk right here is in front of this one? It's this thing right here. It's darker than this one. So as it went away from us, you've got a shadow created by this one. We've got to be able to put those shadows into our trees. Now there's one other thing that I really want you to see. Look at this strong piece of light right here. I'm going to zoom in. What did that tell us? Number one, it tells us that the light is hitting that part right there, but it's making it come away from that house. Now behind that is the shadows. Behind this is the shadow. I also wanted you to see this Y in the tree. It wasn't a typical Y or a fork. This one went this way and then that way, and this one started here and went that way. So we've got to have those gentle curves to our tree. Okay, we got one more tree to look at. Here's our fall tree. This is what we're going to do today. But before we start it, I want you to see some things. Number one, we don't have a huge cloud of leaves. Number two, we have some really neat feet on this tree. Look at that root system. We're going to put this root system here. It's going to have a root there. And then he has toes almost on this root. And there's one back here. And there's one here. And then there's one that comes around right there. Okay? It's got a gnarly looking tree. Let's look right here. We have a branch that comes up here, but that branch started down in this root and came up that way. But what makes it come out from that tree? What tells us that this branch comes forward, not towards the tree trunk? This is what tells that story right there. And right here. Do you notice my shadows are triangles? That's because I'm going to start putting color in right here and let it fade as I get further out. Put some deep shadows right here and then let it fade as it comes out. That's going to tell us that this branch is in front of this tree part back there. That goes all the way up here. I could put another triangle of color. Well, that's almost a rectangle right there. Okay, now this one also comes out and curves gently over to the right. It's behind things, so it can't be as bright as this one. This one's behind it. That branch, that's going to have to be very dark, because it can't be as light as that one. So we're going to have to take our values of our whatever we're using, and we're going to have to adjust them to reflect all of this. Now, why else would I have used this tree? Number one, it's a fall tree. It is going to have a lot of leaves on the ground. Number two, this tree here has a lot of negative space. Look at this. That's all light. This right here is all backlit. That's all negative space. We don't want to lose that when we make our tree. It isn't all filled in. Okay, let's look at these colors. I can't make this move. In some of this, we have green and gold. In other parts, we have gold and red. And then in other parts, we have green and gold, gold and red, and just green. It's the variation of colors, and it's not filling it all in. Just little bitty gaps of color. Okay, are you ready to start drawing? I am. Okay, Nicola on Paint My Photo, she's done a beautiful job getting this picture of this tree. We're going to try and do it justice. I'm going to draw this tree. I don't really want to take it up to the top of my paper, and I don't want to start it out at the bottom of the paper because my roots have to have a place to grow. So I would probably start it up about 1/4 of the paper, right here. Now, also, if you want to remember our lesson about the rule of thirds, where your focus should be, we probably want to keep this tree in this focus on this rule of third, okay? So that means I don't want it clear over here, and I don't want it in the middle. So here's my tree, and I'm letting it curve out at the bottom. Remember, this is a gnarly tree, and it's a big one, an old one, and it's really thick. Okay, so let's say my first set of roots are out here. I'm just kind of going by the tree. You do the best you can. The other thing that happens is the tree doesn't just pop into the ground to make a root. It kind of grows into the ground, which means it gets thinner and thinner so it can pierce that ground. Okay, now that's our first root system. Our second root system comes behind it. We're seeing it, it's probably the halfway around the backside is where this root comes from. And it's going to come out and it's going to curve and it's going to go into the ground there. And it had another, remember I said it's almost like it had toes there? But I can't just make it go straight off. I've got to give it a gentle curve to bring it back. Let's do the same thing over on the other side. Why would I think that it needs to be like that? Because the tree has to have balance, and the root system gives it balance. That's probably got a little bit too long because that wouldn't go out that way. So adjust your root system. There, that looks much better. Okay, now it goes up, and our first one has that branch that comes right off of here. Well, you know, that branch didn't just start going straight out. It started down here, going up and out, like that. Then this other side, it comes up, but the thing about a branch is it grows from the center, and as it gets farther and farther out, it gets thinner and thinner. Okay, now this still goes up. I'm going to erase this mark right there. And maybe there's another one there, but if my tree gets too thick, it's not going to look good. So I'm going to leave that one out, and I'm going to start over on the other side. And right here is where that grew. We have to tell the tree where it grew from. So that's why I'm kind of giving it this little hump there. Okay, maybe there's another one right here, but it's growing out from that one slightly behind it, right there. And it comes off into a V. Okay, it keeps going straight up. And there's another branch that starts right in the center here, comes out, and then goes up, comes out, and then it goes up. Okay, now we've got to get our twigs. These really aren't twigs as much as, see, this one right here has to start more like that. Okay, let's give it another place to start. Let's say there's a branch and we want it to go this way to have leaves. We're going to take it back here. We're going to pull it over like that. Now, it isn't going to be as thick as this one, a little bit thinner. And it can go out to almost anything, nothing really. Okay, let's say that tree branch had another one that we want it to come out of there. And we're going to take it back here where it was growing from, make a gentle curve. And we're going to come up and around, and we're going to do the same thing for the other one. This one is going to have to be smaller than that one, and let's give it a place to start growing from. Okay, I'm liking this one. Then as it gets out here, there might be another branch, and it's going to be thinner until when you get out here, what you're getting is just lines. But notice that all of my lines were gentle curves. Okay, now let's get another one. This branch grew out of the back end of this one, so we aren't seeing anything. And it's behind this one right here. But right here, it'll have one growing off of it right there. So let's bring it up and out like that. Gotta erase that line. Okay, I'm going to use the pencil right now, and I'm going to switch here because remember I said that there is a tree behind a tree? Well, we're going to put just a root here. The roots are right here. We've got to figure out which one is in front of the other. And let's say this one on this side is in front. So let's take a triangle right here. See that triangle? And I'm going to just not really color it in, but shade it. These are just lines. And because it's darker on one side than the other, I'm going to make it darker on one side than the other. All right, over here, there might have been another place right there where I need to tell it this is in shadow. Same thing, just lines. This back here is behind this one right here. And there's probably that triangle right there of shadow. And I'm going to just do some hatch marks. and tell it that this is behind it. This one right here is really in shadow, so there's a really big triangle there. Okay, let's figure out which one of these little toes is in front of the other one. I'm thinking that this toe right here is in front of this toe right here. So I'm putting a triangle right here where I'm going to shade it. Just lines. I haven't colored anything in. Okay, now I've got my deepest shadows. Let's think about our second deepest shadows down here. They would be closest to the ground because the light would be hitting the top. So now I'm going to come down and just give this a little bit of shadowing right here. I can do straight lines, or I can do curved lines. Same thing here. I can give curved lines, or I can give straight lines. The thing is, as I get over here, I'm not going to have any of that shadow because this is in the sun right here, this part right here. Okay, how am I going to know it's in the sun? Number one, it's going to be lighter. Number two, it's going to have another shadow. This is telling us the sun is shining this way, and look, there's a shadow growing that way. Well, if there's a shadow over here, there's got to be a shadow over here. Okay, same thing over here. And right here. Will there be a shadow going this way? Nope. I'm going to have the sun hitting this, but there's going to be a shadow over here. And a shadow over there. That was easy. Let's try and get a shadow on our tree lemon. Let's see. Remember, we've got leaves covering it, and the leaves are probably going to be shading it up here. So this is where our shadow is going to be. Once again, I can do straight lines, or I can do curved lines. Whatever I find easiest. Okay, right here. What are we going to do? Who's in front of who? Whom? All right, let's say this one's got to be in front. So let's put that triangle of shadow right there. To tell us that. Now he's in front. Where's his shadow going to be? It's still going to be up here. But it might be up here all the way back here. The more leaf color, the more these shadows are going to matter. Okay, see where this is right here? Where one tree grew a limb? It's going to have shadows underneath it. Okay, this one right here. This is where a limb grew, so it's going to have this shadow down here. It's also going to have that shadow up here from our leaves. We can do this all the way up to the top. We could even end this tree right about there, because our story is told. That's going to be real deep shadow. And we keep putting these in. Okay. I could keep doing this, and I will post a picture of my tree with all of these shadows on it. But I really want to get to the putting some colored leaves on here. So I've got my colored pencils. I'm going to get different shades of red and yellow and green. How am I going to do that? I'm going to decide. I'll make a bet. There's some leaves right here. I am just doing my scribble lines. Okay, the leaves I know are probably going to have some lights in them. That's the way I'm going to do that. Okay, there might be some greens in this because not all of the leaves have changed. But I want you to look at what I didn't do. Do you see right here? Right here, right here, I have left a lot of white space around my cluster of leaves. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see somebody taking their colored pencils and saying, oh, that's pretty. And then coming over and putting in some more reds and maybe saying, okay, here's some yellow, 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 yellow. All right, that's one cluster. That's all filled in there. I don't want to fill it in. I want to give it space to breathe. Everything needs oxygen. So we can't fill it all up with color. If you absolutely have to, you can take a blue and you can give me some sky in the background. I don't need it though, because my story isn't about the sky in the background. My story is about the fall leaves. So I really want to see what you post. I can't wait to see what you post because I have a feeling that this simple little tree could be just the most beautiful thing you've ever done. Okay, see you next time.